Benefits of living in a small country town like Castlemaine is you can live your own lifestyle pretty much, a nice simple country lifestyle.
Well, I grew up in Castlemaine and I had a great childhood here. It's a town that's got a really strong community feeling. There's a lot going on here. It's an interesting place to live. It's commuting distance to Melbourne, so it's perfect really. The values that the community has, the strong positive values, are really the opposite of the values that are around pokies.
To me, Castlemaine has everything going for it. It's an idyllic Garden of Eden town to live in. There's miles of things for people to do in this town. No weekend comes in Castlemaine. There's not 4 or 5 things on that you can take a pick of. You want to go to one, you've got to miss the other.
My grandmother actually grew up around central Victoria and they settled not far from here when she married. I grew up in Echuca, so I'm a country kid originally, and when we had children, I really wanted them to have the same sort of freedoms that I had as a kid growing up. And so when we came to Castlemaine, we found a couple of things we really loved. The first was you could clearly see that people really did know each other and were interested in each other, and it was a very welcoming and friendly community, and we found that living here as well.
I've always loved Castlemaine. It's a really great community to be part of. It has the benefit of a small country town which has the safety, that sense of community, knowing people, but it also has some level of sophistication and an arts scene, a culture scene, a heritage scene, an environmental scene. It's got a lot of other things and a lot of passionate people.
Moved here just before my oldest boy Ronan was born, about 11 years ago. The whole idea was to come to a community that was a vibrant place to live, that soon would be a great place to bring up kids, really.
My partner and I very much like living in a small community. We plan to spend the rest of our lives here. She will build her dream garden and I'm building my dream library. And I'm very concerned to find that there's a plan to very largely increase the number of poker machines here.
This is an extraordinarily special community. The big thing about Castlemaine is that it's such a family community and that it's been absolutely the best place to raise children. I feel like my children are so safe in here in Castlemaine. And the thought of my kids who are now teenagers, possibly, God forbid, getting hooked in exactly the same way their father did.
Most people seem to have the same view about it. It's going to make the town feel less safe and potentially be less safe. It's going to change the feel of the town. It's going to suck money out of the town and it will have negative social impacts. And we've already got some pokies. But the pokies in the town currently are in only one location and it's a very discreet location. I think a lot of people wouldn't even know there were pokies there. It means that for those people who really do want to gamble, there is something here. And I certainly don't think we need any more.
When I was younger, I worked behind the bar in a pokies venue, and that experience made me strongly opposed to pokies, and I saw firsthand the damage that pokies do to people and to their families. We used to look after children in the restaurant and their parents were playing the pokies, and the children would be there at the start of my shift and they'd be there 8 hours later at 1 a.m. when I finished work, and we'd feed them, and we gave up asking their parents to take them home because we knew that they wouldn't.
The childcare centre has a very strong position that we don't want the pokies in Castlemaine. We worry that some kids who come here will be from families that are suffering problems that result from gambling. We are also concerned just generally for the children because of the fact that the centre's so close to the proposed venue.
I don't want to see a lovely old historic building like that used as a gambling joint. We should treasure our railway buildings because they're quite beautiful and they tell a whole story about the growth of this country. So I'd like to see the new proposed swimming pool sited there. It'd be a wonderful place for a swimming pool.
I can remember actually coaching my children in their indoor cricket team when that was an indoor cricket stadium, and that was it was a terrific use for that building.
It's just not a good venue and it's not a good industry to have in town anyway. It doesn't fit with any of the values of what I believe this community is all about, which is about looking after each other and trying to find a more sustainable and equitable way of living in the world, and ripping money out of poor people, in a misery industry has got nothing to do with that.
It'll have a dramatic effect on some of the businesses around the town if this money's going to be spent by locals on poker machines.
So go and whack 65 machines in, effectively create 50 new problem gamblers, destroy 50 families and their networks in a town of effectively 6,000 households. You're going to end up, I'm going to be living next door to one of those affected communities, or their kids are going to be going to my school and they're going to be hungry and they're not going to have shoes, and dad's going to be, violent or angry because he's got no cash.
I have been to the Maryborough Highlands Society venue in Maryborough. As a farmer, we have a number of meetings there, perhaps 2 or 3 a year, and I know from experience we go to for the purpose of having a meeting, but there are people who will go a little bit earlier and have a dabble with the poker machines, or after the meeting will stay later and spend some money in the poker machines. So it's all very fine for these people who are proposing the venue to have meeting rooms, but really it's not so much providing a community service as just trying to lure people to the place and then hope that they'll then engage with the poker machines and spend their money there. And I think it's a pretty devious and underhanded way to run a business.
I'm a great one for family life, and anything that puts family life at risk for me is a no-no.
The fact that developers argue that they're good for communities is only a way for them to justify implementing them in communities.
If you walk into those hellholes and you've got a fistful of money, you'll put it all through there.
Pokies coming in, in large number like they're proposed to would really change the face of this community.
Castlemainians, people that run the town, support the town, hundreds of volunteers to help it function as it does. We are the people that should have the say.
Let's just not have the problem in the first place. Let's just not have the licences for the machines.